Hello viewers, I welcome you all from HLTF Tech channel, and in today's class, that is our class number 2 for beginners of Dynamics CRM. We will talk about the entities, what are the available fields that you can create and use in custom entities, and we will talk about the ownership for entities. It must be known that Microsoft CRM works around of identity, that is an entity. Entity is nothing but a table which have several columns, and these columns are known as fields, and these fields are of different type. For example, you work in you all of you have worked on Excel, Microsoft Excel, in which you create tables. So the table is actually an entity, and in that entity there are various columns that you create, and you give them some specific name, and there are some data types of that particular columns or fields. So if we talk about entity is just like a table in a database, and it contains attributes just like a table contains fields. If we talk about types of entities in CRM, so there are three different types. The first one is system entity, that is used by CRM for handling internal processes. So whenever you create an on-premise server, or you are given a new server with a default managed package of CRM installed on it, then there must be some system entities that are used by CRM for handling internal processes, and you can't edit them, you cannot handle them because they are used for their own internal processes of CRM. So uh, if we talk about business entities, these are entities that are available in out of box modules. For example, whenever you deploy our new CRM server, you must notice that there are default modules there. For example, there is a module of sales, there is a module of marketing, there is a module of you can say field service, etc. For that modules, these are all of the modules in which there are various type of entities. For example, there may be an entity of lead, there may be an entity of opportunities, quotes, that are quotations, orders, invoice, and in field service you have various asset management, etc. So these all are the entities that are available in out of box modules as a default CRM package, so they are known as business entities. Similarly, if we talk about the custom entities, these are the entities that are created for customizations. That is very important for developers, and whenever you want to customize your default module for your own requirement, for your own organization requirements, so for that purpose you add some custom entities. So these entities are not available in out of box module, but Microsoft Dynamics give you the facility in which you can customize the solution, and you can add new entities, and after making these new entities, after validating them, you publish those customizations and you export the solution as whether unmanaged or managed package solution. We will talk about these unmanaged and managed uh, solutions in our later classes, because this is the class 2 and it's too early to talk about this. I want to keep it to the beginning level, or to the beginners level, so that the users or viewers who are watching these videos as a are of a beginner standard or level, they must have better understanding. So I think that all of these three entities are clear now, and now we will talk about the entity ownership. Okay, custom entities are those entities that are owned by any organization, user, or a team. Similarly, I talked about in my previous slide that whenever you create your custom entities, they are created by some particular admin, and whenever he or she creates some custom entities, he may assign it to a particular organization, that is business unit. He may assign it to a user, or he may assign it to a team as well. We will talk about them when we will create the custom entities in our practical class later on. Similarly, if we talk about business entities, there are some business entities which have the parent child relation. So if we have such type of relations in which there is a parent child relation, then the ownership is defined in parent entities, because the child entity is dependent upon the parent's behavior, so it's also managed by the ownership of the one who is the owner of the parent entity. So if we talk about where the ownership is defined, it is defined in metadata. And similarly, if we talk about the entity ownership, so it is very important that when I told you earlier that CRM revolves around the entities only. So you must have a better idea or a very clear concept of what are the entities, because your dynamic CRM revolves around the entities. So in defining the ownership of entities, there is that there are some types of entities that are owned by the organization. So these are those entities in which the data can be shared or viewed by whole organization. Okay, they cannot be assigned or shared. So organization type of entities are used in such perspective. For example, as an organization, management wants to disseminate some important instructions, or it want to for example, if we talk about the human resource department, you know that the organization will maintain a master repository or master record of all the uh, employees that are working in their organization, and it wants to keep it public so that all the users can share about the contact details of the all the personnel that are working in an organization. For that purpose, organization owned entities are used, and the important thing is that they cannot be assigned or shared. Okay, they are for information only, and they are shared by the organization top level. Okay, so if we talk about the business owned entities, these are the entities that belong to a particular business unit. We will talk about the business units in our upcoming classes very soon, because business units are important thing to understand, because they are the building blocks of the organization. And in every business unit there must be some particular entities that are owned by that particular business unit only, and they have no relation with any other business unit. They are important for using within that business unit. And this for this type of entities, these are known as business owned entities. The third one is user or team owned. It is assigned to a user or team. For example, in a business unit there are multiple groups, or you can say there are multiple teams that are working on separate projects. So they will have their own set of entities that may be assigned to a particular user or a team. So the last one is that it is the owned by none, because it has no ownership. These entities are not owned by any other entity. Okay, so these are types of ownerships that are available in CRM. And if we talk about the comparison between the organization owned or the user or team owned, then we can say this will give you a further clarification, because comparison always leads to some clarifications. So the first thing is that if we talk about the organization owned, that are those entities that contains data that can be viewed across organizations. We have already talked about it, because they are maintained by the top level excuse me, they are maintained by top level administrators, and they are used for disseminating some information, and they are not for sharing or assigning some tasks to anyone. They are basically, you can say, they are for disseminating information. If we talk about user or team on, they contains data that can be accessed using configure security access rule. Okay, that is a spelling mistake, configured hoga, that would be a configured one. So in user or team owned entity, there can be a data that you can assign to your various users depending upon their roles, because for example, manager can assign any particular record to some particular deputy manager or assistant manager for some work in user or team owned entities. So the organization owned entities cannot be assigned or shared, but if we talk about the user or team owned, they can be assigned and shared as well, because I have already told you they are basically for collaboration. They are for assigning purpose. You can give the feedback on some records, etc. So if we talk about the organization owned entities, they contains attributes that is organization owned. And if we talk about user team owned, they have the attributes naming owing team dot owing user. Okay. If we talk about the organization owned entities access level, so there are two types of access: whether you can see the information or you cannot see the information on it. Okay, there is no mid-level information. But if we talk about the one that is owned by the user or team owned, you can say they are different type of access. For example, you do not want to give access to particular users or teams. You want to give access to only some users. You want to give access to a specific team only. You want to give access at business unit level in an organization where there are multiple business units. If you want that, you want to give an entity an access to a particular business unit, or if you want a parent child level access. These all type of access are possible in custom entities that are owned by user or team. So these are major differences between them. They are also asked in interviews as well. I have taken the interviews, I have given the interviews, even my friends have given the interviews, and they have told me that these are the common questions that are asked in the interviews as well. So coming to the next slide, uh, the next thing is that field types in entity. It is very important that there are 11 types of fields that can be used in an entity. For example, when you create a table, okay, you are creating an entity, you are creating some table, you are creating some entity on which you want to uh, input or save particular records. So for that purpose, you have 11 types of field. The first one is single line of text. It's a common field that its data type will be single line of text. So you can create a new field or an attribute with a uh, data type that is single line of text. The second one is image. You can upload an image to some particular record. So for that purpose, give you make a field with an attribute image. You can assign a whole number of attribute. You can give a floating point number. You can give the option sets, that is commonly known as a drop down menu. In drop down menu, there are more than one options which can be selected. For that, if you want to select multiple options in drop down, you can change it to the radio button. Similarly, there are two options. For example, whether you are willing to participate in upcoming event, yes or no. So that's a very simple example in which there is a two option set, which is 0 or 1, or you can say yes or no. Lookup field. Lookup field is actually retrieving or taking the data from any other entity. At that level, there is a concept of append and append to, because these are important if you want to take some particular attribute based on some primary key reference from an other entity into your entity. You must have some relation with these entities. For that purpose, we use the lookup columns. uh, the next one is decimal number, the next one is currency, and the last one is multiple lines of text in which you have a limit of 1048567 characters. Currency you can identify, you can mention in your currency unit. It may be a dollar, it may be a pound, it may be any type of unit depending upon your location and country or your standard of organization. And the last one is date and time. That is an important field in which you can specify whether only the date or time. You can make multiple fields in an entities of same data type, or but there is a limit of about 10240, I think, number of columns after which your entity may exhaust, because it's a limitation of Microsoft SQL. And we will talk about it in later classes. There's no need to worry. I will try to share my experience as much as I can in my every class, and I will also try to give you the practical demonstrations as well. Okay viewers, it is our Dynamics 365 module. That is we developed our on-premise server in our previous videos. If you are my subscriber and watching my videos continuously, you must be familiar with that video. If you are a new viewer, I recommend you to go to my channel and watch how we can install Dynamics 365 on-premise environment in our on-premise environment. Okay, if we talk about entities, here we will go into the settings, and in our settings we are going into the customizations part. And in customization part, here you can customize the system. So for that purpose, if you click on it, a new window will appear. Okay, we have opened the new window of customizations. Here you can see that as a default solution, it's showing you Microsoft Dynamics that it's a solution that is default solution, and in that solution you have these components. There are various type of components here, in which the first one is entities we are talking about in this class. There are different types of other components. We will talk each of them in detail in our upcoming classes, so that we can have better idea of Microsoft Dynamics CRM, as it is a very useful platform. So if we talk about entities, if you go into an entities, here you can see that there are different types of entities here. These all are entities. You can see here there are many entities in a default solution, and all of these entities, if we go into details, here you can see that they have different type of components. If we talk about one entity, that is account. Let's say we are talking about account. In that account there are forms, there are views, there are charts, there are fields that are available. There are keys, which are, you can say, primary key or foreign key. There may be relations, you can develop relations here. Okay, you can say that you can have different types of relations. You have messages, you have business rules, you have hierarchy settings, you have dashboards. So these all are the components of your one entity. And if you go in any other entity, you will see that most of these components are listed here. So you can also change these types. For example, if I say that I want to see only custom entities here, sorry, if I click on entities, and if I click on the entity that are custom, so these are the custom entities. And if I say that all customizable entities may be shown here, you can see that these all are customizable. You can further change the any values here. You can specify any field, additional field or attribute here as well. So if we talk about all, these are all entities that are available here. So uh, if we go into the account entity, let's say for an example, if I go and I double click here, you will see that there are different types of forms here. There is an account card form, there is a sale insights, there is an account. So there's no need to worry, these are different type of forms that are used for interaction with this entity. You can either create them, you can also delete them. So there are different types. We will talk about the forms as well. There's no need to be confused, because once I was a beginner like you, I was also so confused by seeing all of these things. But mark my words, you will follow these instructions and you continuously watch these videos, you will soon become a professional and you will have a better idea of these things. So this is the form of account card form, in which you can do any customizations as well. So these are different types of fields that are available here. Okay, if we click on entities, and if I click on new, so here I can create a new entity. As you know that whenever we create new entity, there are some default values that are created by Microsoft Dynamics CRM. But let's say I name it as my first entity. Okay, this is my first entity that I'm going to create here. So this will be a different type. It will be if we are going to copy it, I'm going to paste it here. So virtual entity means that it may not have some physical existence. It will not, the values will be flyby values. You may have list about flyby values that are not saved in database, that are saved in memory for some calculation based values. We will talk about it in future. So if we want to give any image for understanding, we can use it. This is the color, and okay, this is the ownership type. We were talking about the organization, we were talking about the ownership type in our theoretical part of this video, in which we talk about the ownership. So it gives you an option that you may select for the user or team member ownership, or organization level ownership. If I go and select organization, then what will happen, this entity will not be shareable. Okay, if I select it for user or team, now it can be assigned, it can be shared, it can be assigned as per the available users as well. Okay, these are the areas that in which I can display this entity. For example, if I go here, let me show you these areas. These are the areas: sales, service, marketing, settings, and training. This is actually known as the sitemap. We will talk about the sitemap in our future videos. So here, if I go again into entity, and if I see, these are the areas that are available in the sitemaps. So I can select, let's say I select the sales, and I say that all of the this entity may be available in sales view. So here you are seeing that all of these controls are disabled. What is the main reason behind it? It's very similar that you have to save it to make them enable, because you haven't create an entity yet. Whenever you will create an entity, then you can say that you can work on that entity. Now you can change its settings. So for that purpose, you will have to save it. Okay, now you know that our entity has been saved successfully. So now here you can see that these are various types of controls that are available now. Here you can see now that our entity has been saved, so we can navigate to different types of controls here. So we were talking about the information right now. We have created the first entity, we have assigned it the area in which it will be available. So communication and collaboration, for communication and collaboration we are going to select mail merge. And document management, this will be useful whenever you are going to link your CRM with your SharePoint document center, because you know that Microsoft SharePoint is a Microsoft provided solution for document management. So if you are dealing with any types of documents, then you can select this option. But before that, your server must have an integration with your on-premise or online SharePoint based server for document saving. We will talk about it in future because I have already covered many videos of Microsoft SharePoint in my previous videos. There are about 50 plus videos on from beginners till the advanced level, and they are available in my channel as well. If you are a new viewer, I request you to go to my channel and watch that videos, and also subscribe my channel as well. So these are the different types of options that are available for your entities. And if we talk about the primary field will be a name field that is created by default whenever you create a new entity, and this will be a field with a data type that is single line of text. So this is the general field. And if I go into forms, you can see that three types of forms are available now. If I click on the main form, here you can see that this is the main form that is by default available. So in these forms, here you can see that there are different types of attributes or fields that have been created. These are the fields that whenever you create an entity, these fields are created by default by the system. Okay, because whenever you create an entity, there must be some fields in which the system stores some data related to those entities or records. For that purpose, it saves some fields, it generates some fields that are created by default. So this was about the main entity form, and there are different types of controls here. And if you go and keep on changing some fields, if we talk about the custom fields here you can see that no custom field have been defined. If you remember, we have just created a new entity, we have not defined any type of custom field here. So I'm going to, you can change these forms as well. This is a form view in which you can change it. If you're working on online version of Dynamics, you can play on these forms using Power Platforms. In our upcoming videos, we will also talk about the Power Platform. So this was the main form, this was the card form view, this is the view form. And if we talk about the quick view form, this was like that. So these are three types of forms that are created by default. And if we talk about the fields, if you remember, these are the fields that are created by default. And you have to create some additional fields as custom fields. So if I click on new, here you can see that there will be new option for enabling the fields. If I select, let's say I'm going to date, appointment date. Okay, if I talk about, I'm going to create a new field with an appointment date for hiring new employees or keeping the data of the employees that are hired. So this field requirement will be either optional, business recommended, or business required. Business required means that without filling that form field, you cannot save the form. You cannot proceed further. That's mandatory. So searchable, you want to keep it searchable? No, because I don't want to search my fields that are based on some dates. I will search only the fields. It is always recommended that you search the fields that are indexed properly. For example, your you can say you can have your national identity card number that are unique values. You can search. You can make the searchable fields yes to your names. You cannot search. You may not keep the search values on the fields that are not required. So I think you have got understanding of what I want to say here. So if I go into the auditing, okay, we are going to enable it, or we can also disable it as per our requirement. Here I was talking about the field type. If we if you rewind a little earlier in my video, there were 11 types of fields. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12. Okay, they are in 12. The one I was missing was a customer. Okay, this is an additional field here. So here, if it's an appointment date, so I will have to select the date and time here, and it will be either a simple value or a calculated one. For example, you want to display here the date of birth, and on this date you want to calculate some field in an you want to calculate age on some other field. You will give it an calculated option. Okay, and then you can change it up as per the formula. So I'm going to keep it simple, and here I am going to select the date only, because appointment date I don't want to mention the time, because I don't think so that it will keep some sense. So it depends upon you that whatever you want your field types maybe. So I will click save, and after clicking save, this value has been saved. And if I go on business rules, we will talk about business rules in our upcoming videos. I don't want to keep it further uh, length in the video. So here I have created an entity. I have talked about the uh, fields that may be available, and I'm going to, after that, the most important thing is that you have to publish the customizations. Doing publishing customizations, you cannot proceed further. So here I'm also going to publish all customizations, because I have added an other entity here as a custom entity. So after publishing customizations, we will see whether our new customizations are appearing here. Okay, wonderful. After publishing all customizations, if I go into the custom module here, you can see that in my custom entities, there is an entity that is first entity. And if I go here alphabetically, I can also find out my first entity, that is this one. So these are all the controls that are available for this entity, and this was the entity that we had created. So now if I go and click refresh, and I go into sales module, here you can see to now sales. Here you can see that in sales, my entity that I have just created is no more available, is not available right now. So it's have some problems. It creates usually some problems when you create new entity in some area and that is not visible there. For that purpose, what you do, you go into customizations again and customize the system, and in that purpose you will go into client extensions. Here there is a sitemap, because this is a sitemap. The area that is available here and the controls that are available here are all available in the sitemaps. So I will go in quickly to the sitemap. Here, this is the sitemap, and in this sitemap I'm going to I want to add it in the sales. So I'm going to add a new sub area here. Okay, for adding a new sub area here, I will select sales. Sorry, I will go into components and I'm going to select drag and drop sub area here, and in sub area I'm going to define it that it will be an entity, and the source of this entity will be the newly created entity, that is my first entity, and it's available here. And title, I'm going to keep it simple as first entity, and this will be the ID. And if you go into the advanced parameters, there may be some privileges, there may be more titles, more descriptions, clients, Outlook shortcut as well. That is used for emailing if you have configured your Outlook facility. And I'm going to save it. After saving, I'm going to publish it. And now I'm going to save and close. After refreshing the page, hopefully it may be available here now. Sales, okay, fine, it's now available here, the new entity that we have just created. If I click on here, so this is the view form of my entity with the default workbench ribbons that are available here, and there are different controls in this ribbons. There is a chart view. I can also navigate to the chart view. We can click on new. On clicking new, here you can see that a new data will appear. So this was all about the entities class. I think so that it must be clear. We have just gathering basic knowledge of what are the basic components of CRM and why they are important, and how we can build custom components as well. So guys, thank you for watching this video, and subscribe my channel to continue enjoying more videos of Microsoft technologies. I thank you all.